Britain inserted into the weapon systems by American and British hands. People need to understand ATACMS can't be launched. It's a GPS guided system, GPS and inertial guidance system. But if it's GPS, commercial GPS, like we all use, well, maybe Scott, I got a Garmin. Great. You got a single signal between you and the Garmin, and I can jam it anytime I want, and then you're stupid. You don't have anything. You have to use military grade GPS. That's 2 signals. In order to make those signals work, they're encrypted. You have to be able to decrypt them. So there's a little device that gets plugged in there, and you have to load in the encryption. Only Americans and NATO get to do that. Part of a schedule published by the National Security Agency. So before each ATACMS can be used to launch, to make sure that GPS doesn't get jammed, an American or NATO hand has to load up the encryption. That means that we're making this possible. That missile can't hit Russian territory without an American hand. The Russians are going, that means you're attacking us. Literally, it means you're attacking us. You're a party to the conflict. With the Storm Shadow, it's even more. It uses GPS, again, that whole encryption thing we just talked about. It uses an inertial navigation system, but it also uses something called terrain, basically terrain following, TERRACOM. And this is maps made by the United States, only the United States, of the terrain maps with all the features. We block that in, and then we have to program in more refined things. This is all done targeting. We have a targeting cell. There's a name for it. I forget it. But we have them in the Pacific. We have them in the Atlantic. We have them in the United States. The targeting cell is responsible for different parts of the world. And what it does is if you want to hit a target, it will then do a couple things. It's going to pick the route that you need to fly to avoid terrain features. You don't want to run into buildings, pylons, mountains, etc. You're going to pick the route, but you're also going to overlay it, the intelligence that where enemy air defense systems are. You're going to go around that. Only we have this. Only we're capable of putting it all together into a target package that we designed. The Ukrainians can say this is the target we want to hit, but to hit that target, we have to build the target package. And then it gets sent encrypted, by the way. I know that's inconvenient, but it's sent encrypted on the ground to the people near the missile who aren't Ukrainians. They're not, because Ukrainians aren't allowed to be anywhere near this encryption. And then it gets loaded into this missile by these non-Ukrainian hands, probably hands that say made in Great Britain or made in America, because it's American targeting data, baby. We developed the target. And then it's loaded on and it's fired. To do a target like this, you need 24 to 48 hours minimum to plan. This isn't a spontaneous target. That means that the United States for 24 to 48 hours is planning a literal attack using a NATO weapon against Russian target. We're the parties to the conflict. And Vladimir Putin said, we know this. You say, well, how does he know it? Scott Ritter, you gave away national secrets. No, everything I just said is publicly. It's in the public domain. But the Russians have, just so you know, captured intact the ATACMS warhead to include the guidance. They found the port. They know what that port's for. It's where the targeting, the GPS encryption's put in, because they pulled out the chips and they were able to read it and they reverse engineer it and they got it all. They know everything. They captured intact the Storm Shadow. They know everything. They were able to reverse engineer it. They know this. So when Putin says, we know how this works, he's not guessing. He's not going off of open source intelligence. The Russians know this and confirmed it. He knows without a shadow of doubt that if that is used to hit a Russian target, an American or British hand touched it. It was planned in the United States, and he's not going to let that happen. We wouldn't let that happen. Imagine if Russia gave Mexico a bunch of missiles that Russia targeted, used Russian satellites, and gave it to the Mexicans, to the cartel or somebody, and said, hit Denver. And boom, Denver blows up. And Russia says, no, it was the Mexicans that did it. No, it wasn't. You did it. You gave them the weapon. You gave them the intelligence. You loaded it in. And you helped them fire it. We blame Russia. Well, that's what Russia just did. They blamed us. Rightfully so. You know,